Earlier, I don't think they graduated from my school district, just so everybody, I would want a disclaimer because we don't tolerate behavior like that. You know, we like free speech and dialogue, that kind of thing. So once again, my name is Marc Thielman. I'm the superintendent and K-12 principal in the Alsea School District. For those who don't know where Alsea is, it's a little tiny community kind of between Waldport and Philomath in the Coast Range, somewhat remote. The good news is we're not able to open, so thank you, Kate Brown. So having served as a superintendent in Oregon for the past 15 years, I can speak with great authority when I say that the state of education in Oregon is at a 30-year all-time low, made worse by the shutdown. These people do not care about the costs of, to your kids and your children regarding education. They don't care about the huge imposition for families. When she announced the latest, shall we say, metrics, you know, where the state metric is more restrictive than the county one, which if you have statistics education, that makes absolutely no sense. I had to deal with just dozens of emails from crying moms and upset kids, one of them my daughter herself. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a flavor of what we're dealing with leadership-wise, and hopefully you can follow along. The speech was a lot longer, but I had to stop by my attorney on the way here because I'm being vetted to run for governor, so they're like, don't want me to say anything stupid. And we don't want to say anything bad. So so if it gets a little herky-jerky, it's because I'm like, oh, I can't read that. I'm going to skip to this. So here we go. In 1990, our public education system in Oregon was ranked number 2 in the nation. And now in 2020, we're ranked 48th. And this is a cost of 30 years of one-party rule and really, really bad leadership. And I know what a lot of you are thinking because I've talked to a lot of you as I got here today, and a lot of you seem very intelligent and you seem to think for yourself. So let's apply a little reason. You're probably thinking that going from number 2 to number 48 is a bad thing. Anybody? Is that bad? Okay, well, the people I have to work with over at the Department of Education, they don't think that's bad at all. Even though we've invested billions of dollars over the last 30 years in education, it continues to get worse. So, real quick, let's look at the difference in focus from 1990 to now in our education system. So I'm going to put these on. Is that okay? I just turned 50, huh? Anybody else 50? Yeah. It's the new 35, okay? So our lesson begins. Let's pretend we're in school. So when Oregon ranked number 2 in the nation for education, the purpose and mission of the Department of Education was to provide all students access to high-quality, well-rounded education designed to enable every child to grow into a tolerant, caring, responsible, and productive citizen. Does that sound okay? Doesn't sound too bad? So let's break this down into key words: access, quality, education, tolerant, caring, responsible citizen. And for the sake of the exercise, please underline the word education. How many people think education should be in the Department of Education's mission statement? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. So this mission statement, it emphasized the values of education, diversity, the student as an individual person, and citizenship, that we all grow up, we get educated, we go out into the world, and now we're responsible not only for ourselves, but for those we love and for those around us and those in our community. Does that sound too rebellious? Does that sound, it's kind of domineering, don't you think? So let's move forward now to 2020. So let's contrast 1990 mission statement with today's. Here is today's mission statement, been approved by Governor Brown and her appointed Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Colt Gill. The Oregon Department of Education fosters equity and excellence for every learner through collaboration with educators, partners, and communities. Hey, that was really, she said, what does that mean? That's what, I actually wrote that here. Okay, so let's break it down and we'll help you, okay, because I'm a teacher, I'm an educator. Okay, equity, excellence, learner, collaboration, educators, partners, and communities. So here's a mini assignment. Oh, wait, we can't do that. I was going to have you underline education in that mission statement. So please note, education is not in the mission statement. Do you know that the top 5 states in the country for education all have the word education in their mission statement? Connection? I thought it was strange. I even wrote I'm sorry. The attorney said that I have to say that counts for West Texas Sun. Okay? So instead, it emphasizes the ephemeral phrase, which is what you were wondering about. By the way, I got $5 for putting ephemeral in my speech from my buddy. So, equity and excellence of every learner. The values supporting this statement are that of sameness, conformity, uniformity. So no more thinking for yourselves. You have to repeat the narrative. You have to comply and be in the group. Kind of interesting. So the term collaboration emphasizes group thinking over individual thought, collective action over individual choice, all under the watchful eye of our partners. You know, the public teachers unions, the public unions, or the dubious thought police if you're in a university, or even better, if you go to downtown Portland, the cancel culture patrol. I think one of our earlier speakers talked about that. Now, on the surface, each mission statement seems kind of benign, but they couldn't be more diametrically opposed. And the reason is the Oregon Public Education ranks in the bottom is precisely because it emphasizes everything but excellence in education. You've got to do everything but educate. You need to support social emotional. You need to think about how tough people got it. We all need to get the same grade because it makes people feel bad if some people get A's and some people get C's. I'll cover that later in the lesson. So in education, the emphasis on conformity to values and norms and the divisive countercultural collective is what we're facing. Try being a superintendent as a conservative. This is how many there are in Oregon. I'm right here. So it demands equality of outcome, and the only way to achieve this is by dismantling the mechanisms and behaviors we have traditionally used to facilitate individual student success, such as the value of hard work, dedication to goals, personal responsibility, focus, punctuality, diversity, tolerance, Socratic debate. Was there any debating going on? How about the good conversation that was going on earlier? Was that? No, I thought so. Individual self-expression. See, all these things have to fall away before the wake of collective collective conformity and compliance to group norms and identity. You're no longer by yourself. You only have value as you relate to the group, to the narrative. Do what I say and shut up. That's basically what we're dealing with in public education. So we see this in the recent rise of counterculture, most notably in the streets of Portland. I'm going to give you guys, everybody ready for your homework assignment? Okay. In Portland, it's common to face, hey, agree with me or we will declare you a Nazi, a racist, a bigot, a sexist, a homophobe, so on and so forth. You'll be docked. They'll find out your personal information. They'll put it on social media, and the mob will show up at your house, harass you, threaten you, bully you, intimidate you, all under the guise of building a better society. I've lived it in my career. I have been told in this building, you will never leave LC. We will never allow you to get another job. Fortunately, I haven't tried, but I think they might be right. Here we go. Disagree or resist, and you'll get fired, suspended, isolated, or marginalized. If you have yet to experience the proclivities of cancel culture, here's your assignment. I would like you guys to spend some time tonight in downtown Portland, say around 10 p.m. at the Federal Building. Yes, tonight. And see how much intelligent two-way conversation you get to have regarding the subject, which is the success of American federalism. See how it goes. And if you don't believe me, you will believe me after you try that assignment. Now, I will give you 20 extra credit points because I'm thinking I'm going to give everybody a quiz when I'm done. Is that okay? Oh, by the way, no masks are required in Portland downtown after 10 because COVID, you're immune to COVID if you're rioting or protesting. You guys didn't, that's what, oh, wait a minute. You guys were supposed to have, yeah, okay, I'm wondering. But I digress. So, Governor Brown and Mr. Gill, they promote equity over education, conformity over diversity, groupthink over individual thought, compliance over individual self-expression, narrative over facts, equality of outcome over rugged individualism, globalism over American exceptionalism. So this kind of leadership is precisely why we're failing. We want kids to set goals, work hard, feel good about earning an A, feel good about doing a good job. We want to celebrate those kids. But that's not how our leaders think. So here's what Mr. Gill said when he went to outlaw grades last spring. You guys remember that, where letter grades were banned? Like, no more? Here we go. He says to us superintendents, now this is the part I had to get the lawyers to look at because this was an embargoed email. Everybody say that, embargoed. Top secret. Please don't share this with anyone else. Why not? So, since I can't read this, here I go. We acknowledge that our public education system creates a problematic paradox around who the system is designed to serve. We take a strong equity stance at ODE. Educational equity is the equitable implementation of policy, practices, procedures, and legislation that translates into resource allocation, education rigor, and opportunities for historically and currently marginalized youth, students, and families, including civil rights protected classes. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Anytime you get something like that, you know bad news is coming. So he writes, this is what Mr. Gill wrote and sent out to all 196 superintendents. This means the restructuring and dismantling of systems and institutions that create the dichotomy of beneficiaries and oppressed and marginalized. So I was like, well, what are we going to revamp the government? What's going on here? I mean, this sounds pretty ominous. Isn't the public school system one of those institutions, people? So do we have to get rid of it? What, Mr. Gill? Please share your wisdom. So he then said, and now we're going to cancel letter grades because they create inequity, literally. I don't know about you. Raise your hand if you are proud of your kids when they get good grades. Anybody? Raise your hand if your kids are motivated by grades. Anybody? Now, here's another one. Raise your hand if you've done a great job providing for your kids and you have great relationships and supports at home and they have everything they need and they don't get the grades you want. Anybody? Okay, there we go. That's what I thought. Because Mr. Gill needs to hear this speech because he thinks it works the other way around. And I'll share with you what he says. So what he says is, I mean, can we really be equal if some students earn A's while others earn C's? That's what he said. Especially if colleges and employers, anybody own business out here? You guys ever interview people and look at their resume? By the way, you're grading them. I want Mr. Gill to hear that. Okay, he says here, to use those grades to admit some or exclude others. Isn't that the learning itself that matters? Can't we all just get along? So, the COVID shutdown was his excuse. So he dismantled the letter grade system and he replaced it with pass incomplete. And he writes, now all students will truly be equal by earning the same grade regardless of effort, ability, this is me. Now everyone will truly be equal by earning the same grade regardless of effort, ability, individual circumstance, and or work performance. Listen, the shutdown was tough enough and I'm a seasoned veteran educator. I had to really ride my daughter to do her work because she said, Dad, I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is check in and I'm going to get a pass. Thank you, Mr. Gill, for making my job as a parent so much easier. By the way, my daughter did her work and she's still mad at me about it. Okay. He writes, and this is something he did say, if we want to give our kids grade during this time, we're really going to be grading what their home life looks like. Nothing bigoted about that. And I don't think it's fair to do that to anyone who could ever question the logic and rightness of Mr. Gill's virtuous leadership. Who? The answer, tens of thousands of parents statewide in Oregon were ticked. Anybody was mad? Anybody? Let me hear it. Some of you parents even went out and put out a petition and thousands of people signed it. And by the way, in this email, he sent a copy of the petition so we superintendents would know not to participate. So here's the facts. Mr. Gill believes that individual student achievement is directly tied to a student's home life. So if a student has bad grades, their home life must be what? Raise your hand if your home life's good and your kids get bad grades. I've got one. All right? Okay, so therefore, all students from resource-deprived, chaotic, challenged, or otherwise difficult home lives should perform poorly. So let's do some science. Here we go. If we couple this logic with a tsunami of parent backlash over grades, we get to a 3-page long email. So I sent Mr. Gill one question. I said, I have a question I'm hoping you can answer. My personal perspective I also provided, and I told him a story about a child I had. So I have a student last spring who's in the 8th grade. When the COVID shutdown happened, we went and made sure every family in the Alsea School District had internet, and if they couldn't afford it, we paid for it. We reached 100% of our students. We brought food, resources, hand sanitizer, underwear, socks. We converted our district to online 2 weeks ahead of everybody else, and I said to my staff, we're giving grades. 2 weeks later, that was taken away from us. The problem was, I already said we're giving grades. And last I checked, the superintendent and the school board are in charge of school districts. The governor's order forgot to mention that. So let me tell you about this child. So he's taking pre-algebra online because of the COVID shutdown. And he lives in a 10-foot by 20-foot shack, single board wall. He has no grid power, no plumbing. They have a little battery they can hook up with to charge their devices. He lives with his mother and 2 siblings. So I had to work with the internet to get them 24-hour service because they didn't have a street address. His home life is chaotic, unstable, and the poster of poverty. I sent this to Mr. Gill. He's earning an A in pre-algebra. So I asked Mr. Gill, I said, are you sure you're right about your assumptions? Because this seems to fly, this is real evidence. This seems to fly in the face of what you presented. Oh, right here, the lawyer said, don't read that. Monologue, don't read that. Okay, here I go. I can read this part. Are you ready? So I did say to Mr. Gill, I said, look, personally, I'd prefer a pass incomplete because there are families that have it tough. You know what I'm saying? We all have those kids that just refuse to work. Parents aren't teachers, right? I did send my principal to homes to apply discipline. That was another thing we did. I said, with the option for parents to elect to have their kids get a grade if they earn it. What's wrong with that? Anybody see a problem with that? Okay. This would allow us to address the equity issue for the at-risk and underserved students who make the grade while not harming those who struggle. So if they struggle, they get a pass. If they do well, they get a grade. Does that sound unreasonable? But it is unequitable. The outcomes are different. Food for thought. By the way, thank you for sending the petition. I signed it. The only superintendent in the state, by the way. That was me. So, just so you know, here's his reply. 1 page, I can't read it. 2 pages, I can read the underlined section according to my attorney. He writes, research reinforces that grades don't motivate learning, and we all know that grades are not assigned in the real world. Anybody gotten a speeding ticket? Anybody? Your driving was just graded, sir. All right? Anybody ever had an evaluation at work? Who are these people? You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. I'm sorry, I can't say that. Students spend, we know that it's the time or any time a student spends engaged in meaningful learning contributes to well-being and results in knowledge that lives with them. And I wrote, add 2 rainbows and a unicorn and we'll be 50th in the nation by next week. Here we go. So to summarize what I can't read, he's basically saying that children in good circumstances automatically achieve at higher rates. That's not true. Let's test this. Raise your hand again. Good home, relationship, little weasel won't do well in school. Raise your hand. What's up with that? Raise your hand. You don't even talk to them. They do all their work, right? You may not even have the smoothest of life. Kids are doing great. Raise your hand. That's what I'm talking about. About 50-50 too. Shows you how amazing America is. and how amazing our culture is and how resilient our children are. Truly, truly, this is an awesome country. I hear the coolest superintendent in the country, too, is in Oregon. All right. I know this is getting long, but we're almost done. So, this is how it worked. I decided to send an email to all my parents saying, look, if you want grades, we'll do A's and B's. I kind of split the mustard there. I had dozens of parents say, I want my kid to get a letter grade. So, my principals were like, Mark, I go, guys, look, I'll handle it. Okay. So we went through the spring. We had 92% attendance online, 87% of assignments turned in by our awesome students, our awesome staff. Everybody did a great job. We even put in missing work, and we gave incompletes, which is technically a nice way of saying you failed. See? So Mr. Gill did motivate me to take the following action, which I told you about. I gave these emails out. And here's the response. When the grades from Alsea School District were submitted to the local education service district for uploading and reporting, the bureaucrats at ODE and in the ESD refused to upload the data because, quote, schools are not allowed to give letter grades. Do you ever think you'd hear that in America? So I was actually out of town for a couple of days, and my poor staff tried, and they couldn't get the ESD to upload the grades. I get back to work. I mean, it's sheer mayhem. Could you imagine the stress, right? Because they got to call all these parents we just promised grades to and say, well, so needless to say, it was a little uncomfortable when I returned to work. Fortunately, though, I have a steel veneer, all right? So stoically, I handled the situation like a cool cucumber, a solid leader. Actually, I went in my office and closed the door. I called the ESD and I talked to the bureaucrats. All right, here it is. You guys want to hear what I said? Because then my speech is over. Okay, here it is. Like all great leaders of old, I looked, by the way, I had a meeting following what I just said. So when I got off the phone, I came out, I said, grades are uploaded. And they were all like, huh? And then I left, and we had a meeting the following morning. So let me give you the context of that. Here it is in the meeting. I looked my team as they looked relieved and shocked. How did he pull that? How did Thielman pull that one off? That's actually what they were saying. I said, well, actually, it was easy. When they told me that schools were not allowed to give letter grades, I simply said, wow, I am super confused. Because the last I checked, P is a letter, and it's being used as a grade. This is a true story. After a very, very long pause, long enough for me to say, are you still there? The ESD uploaded the grades. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you for listening. I got to put in one plug. If you want to see all the awesome things we're doing at Alsea, if you want to teach your kids from home and get paid to do it because we pay all the bills, please see our Learn at Home at our learnathomeoregon.com. Please go to that learnathomeoregon.com. We will take good care of you and your kids during this awful government-imposed, ridiculous shutdown. Thank you.